So, you want to be wealthy and happy, right? Well, there's one single lesson that can honestly change everything. In this explainer, we're going to break down a really simple but incredibly powerful philosophy for completely transforming your finances, your happiness, and yeah, your entire future. And this is it. This is the core idea, the whole secret right here. It sounds so simple, but it's a massive shift in how you think. The idea is that your outside world, your income, your success, it's just a reflection of your inside world. Your income, get this, rarely exceeds your own personal development. This totally flips the script on what success even means. See, it's not about chasing after money or a fancy title. It's about becoming the kind of person who just attracts those things naturally. The real prize isn't what you get. It's who you become in the process. So many of us think, if I just had more money, all my problems would disappear. But this way of thinking says that's not the real issue at all. The real bottleneck isn't a lack of cash, it's a lack of ideas on how to create the life you want. If you get the ideas, you can literally change anything. Okay, so if ideas are the answer, where do you get them? That brings us to our first big practical step. You have to actively find out how things work. You want to be successful? Go study success. You want to be happy? Go study happiness. Let's look at how you do that. It really boils down to three fundamental things. They're surprisingly simple, but when you do them consistently, they are life-altering. You read, you listen, and you observe. Let's break each one down. First up, reading. Now, we're not talking about formal school here. Look, a standard education is going to get you a standard life, which is totally fine if that's what you want. But if you want to go beyond that, you have to commit to educating yourself for life. And it doesn't have to be some huge, overwhelming thing. The starting point is so simple. Just 30 minutes a day. That's it. 30 minutes of reading something positive, something that teaches you, something that inspires you, that can build the foundation for massive change. And that's why this little habit is such a game changer. You get to learn from other people's mistakes and their wins. I mean, one good book can literally save you 5 years of trial and error. You've got hundreds of successful people who've basically written down the blueprint of how they did it. The key is not to just follow them blindly, but to become a student of their journey. All right, let's move on to the second method, and you'll see how these build on each other. It's learning to truly listen. This means you got to actively seek out and just soak up the wisdom from people who are already where you want to be. Whoa, okay, that's a pretty bold statement, right? But the idea behind it is pure gold. It means you should be willing to invest your time, your money, to get around people you can learn from. Seriously, just an hour or two listening to someone who's crushing it can give you ideas that could change your entire life. It's an investment in you. And that brings us to the third way to gather these game-changing ideas. Through careful observation. You've heard it before, success leaves clues. You can pick up on so much just by paying close attention to what successful people are doing day in and day out. And there's a huge difference here. Sight is just, what you see with your eyes. But insight, that's seeing with your mind. It's about looking deeper, asking why they do what they do. When you combine what your eyes see with what your mind can figure out, you don't just see things, you start seeing answers. Okay, so you've been reading, you've been listening, you've been observing. Your head is buzzing with new ideas. But that brings us to the most critical step of all. Knowing stuff isn't enough. You gotta do something with it. It's time to get to work. This is the question. This is what you have to ask yourself every single day. What new action are you going to take? What new discipline will you start? The power to change your life doesn't come from some magic wand. It comes from your ability to make yourself do the things you need to do. So, how do you do it? Well, you start small. You master the little disciplines because those build the mental and emotional muscle for the bigger stuff life's going to throw at you. And you have to realize that real motivation, it has to come from inside you. You can't just sit around waiting for someone to get you fired up. You need to have a better plan for your life than that. This is the absolute bottom line for this step. Don't just let your learning lead to more knowledge. You'll end up being what they call a well-read fool. Let your learning lead to action. That is how you become wealthy, not just with money, but in every single part of your life. And now for our third and final piece of this whole philosophy. It's less of an action and more of a really important warning, a way to protect all the progress you're about to make. Simple as this. Find out how things work and then work with the system. Don't go looking for the shortcuts, the loopholes, the cheap answers. People who try to cut corners and bend the truth, they end up with a cheap life. Do it right.
even when it feels like it's taking a little longer. Don't compromise.
And all of this, it brings us right here, to the challenge. The power to change everything you want to change is already in you. You never have to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago, unless you choose to be.
Just let that sink in for a second. It's kind of sobering, but it's also incredibly empowering. If you want a sneak peek at your next 5 years, just look at your last 5. They're going to be pretty much the same, unless you make a conscious decision right now to change.
So as we wrap this up, this is really the only question that matters. Not what you learned, but what you're going to do. What one tiny thing will you do differently tomorrow that will start to change everything? The choice, as always, is yours.